Hey guys, my name is Tristan Duplashane. I'm an aspiring photographer based out of Jackson, Mississippi. I've been shooting for about 10 years now. I started when I was 14 years old, and I definitely love photographing people and portraits, and I figured I would make this video just to kind of go through the type of lenses that I use on a daily basis. This has actually been a big request from other photographers, so I figured I would just kind of share my information. I currently shoot on a Canon 5D Mark III, and I use a Sigma 35mm art lens. That is probably my favorite go-to lens at the moment. My portrait lens that I use is the 50mm 1.4, which is a great lens to start with if you don't have a whole lot of money. It's like I think it was like $150, $200 when I first started out, and I bought that lens, and it's definitely one. I've broken it twice, and it wasn't that much money for me to replace. I take it when I'm going through places where it might be dirty, I might be traveling, and it's really light, so that one's a really good recommendation. I also use the 85mm 1.4 lens. I love this one for close-in portraits and when I'm trying to get a lot of bokeh in my background, or I want really crisp eyes or really crisp whatever subject I'm trying to go for. So like if I'm photographing lips or even details at weddings, I use that lens. I also have the 100mm I think it was 2.8 lens. I use this one more so for like ring shots at weddings. That's usually my go-to for just detail shots. I don't really use it for photographing portraits. I also have the 24 to 70mm lens. I think it's the 2.8, and I use it a lot too, but I've kind of strayed away from it since I got the 35mm. It does pretty much everything that I want. So unless I'm photographing like a large family, or I'm in like a really hard spot where I really need something wide, or maybe like a concert or something, that's about the only time I use that lens right now. So I figured I would just kind of go through that. For post, I always go through Lightroom. I actually just started using Lightroom about 3 months ago, and I actually really regret not using it sooner. I think that it's definitely taken my work to a whole nother level. It brings the highlights and the shadows out so much better than just using Photoshop. So if you're starting out, I would highly suggest getting Lightroom. I would do that way before I would start doing Photoshop, because Photoshop I usually go through and edit details like acne, eye color, changing colors, like pinpointing different things, removing things like that. I would just stay in Photoshop with. Also, there's other videos on my channel if you want to see how I retouch. I will be adding a lot more soon, and I also plan on using some for Lightroom tutorials. I do have a couple packs that I use. Also, Visco has their own packs that you can put in Lightroom, so that's even better, because a lot of my iPhone photography I edit in Visco. So if I want to keep my consistency on point, then I kind of pull in onto my Lightroom, and then I just make sure that they're like I just try to make sure that my brain freeze. I just try to make sure that everything is consistent, so that way my flow on my Instagram page is always right. When you go on my website, it doesn't vary too much, and that's actually something this past year I've really tried to rein in, is my consistency. A lot of people could always know that it was my work because of my retouching as far as faces goes, so I wanted to make my color correcting a lot more consistent as well, just so that you could see that work and know that I photographed it. If you're building your brand, which is what I'm doing, you definitely want to have a staple and something that makes you stand out versus other photographers, because it is a highly saturated field right now. So I definitely recommend, if you're trying to get into the industry, you want to do things that make you stand out. I'm fixing to drop in a couple different photos that I've actually recently photographed, and I'm going to put what lenses I used. So this photo right here, I actually photographed with a Sigma 35mm art lens. It's actually a recent shot that I did in New Orleans. I traveled down there on a whim during Tropical Storm Cindy, actually. And it was really last minute. The guy was from London, and he was actually about to leave to go to Miami, and then after that he was going to Cuba. So we rushed to do that, and I got some amazing photos out of it. Great day. The wind was a little tough, but other than that, like, it was blue skies. Really awesome shoot. This photo right here that I'm about to show you, I shot with a 50mm 1.4 lens. I definitely wanted to get that great portrait look, so I definitely like to zoom in a little bit more. If I'm just doing full body, I do stick with the Sigma 35mm, and then if I'm trying to do close ins, it does warp their bodies a little bit, so I definitely tried to stay away from that. So I definitely went in and I just did the 50mm 1.4 lens, and it definitely did what I needed and kept all the constraints proper. Just a little background story on me. I've been shooting since I was 14 years old. I started out in a vocational class and doing graphic design, and then I just loved the retouching aspect of it, and then eventually I got into actually shooting. I dabbled here and there, and then I got my degree at Antonelli College for photography, and I ended up loving it there, and just going out further and just, you know, grabbing every book that I possibly could. I tell people just grab books, ebooks. I'm not really a big ebook person myself, but I know there's a lot of people that are. I personally like to go to Barnes & Noble and just spend all day in there and just read everything that I possibly can. I've gotten a lot of books on Instagram and on Canon 5D Mark III and how it works. Laura Jade has some really amazing tips in her book, Fashion 101. I used that one a lot. I actually bought that book, and I don't like buying books, but I definitely bought that one because it's my favorite, and I definitely look up to Laura. She's amazing. So there's definitely a lot that you can utilize just going to like Barnes & Noble. You also want to learn like the creativity of it. So I definitely design my own costumes, or I do my own makeup and hair. I've done headpieces. Hobby Lobby is amazing. Walmart's great. I've actually gotten a lot of stuff. On my website, I recently photographed 2 girls, and I turned t-shirts and some cheap $10 tutus I bought from eBay into these little whimsical dresses, and it went over really well. So I definitely advise trying to really utilize your creativity, especially when you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money. It can actually enhance your creativity. Just because you're limited doesn't mean that you can't just reach and do this big imaginary thing, you know. And Photoshop is so great. If you learn how to use it properly, you can really turn a little something into a lot. So I definitely recommend, if you're starting out, just kind of learn, read, you know, do. I mean, if you're not doing it, you can't necessarily find out what you're doing wrong and what you need to grow. So I hope this is a good video for you guys. I have other videos. I'm trying to get more behind the scenes work. I'm trying to also do more retouching videos and Q&As. So if you guys have any questions about how I shoot, please send me a message or email me. I love getting mail from you guys, and I hope to hear from you soon. I plan on having more videos up